Okay, well, good. Well, welcome to our community chat, Girl Take Off Your Cape for Superwoman Syndrome. So, my name is Tangia Augustin, co owner of Avail Outpatient Counseling. And usually, we actually have with us my business partner, Dr. Shanro Blackwell, but she couldn't make it this evening. So, it's just me and Miss NaQuetta Mitchell. And I'm saying
NaQuetta, yeah.
NaQuetta. Okay, I was like, am I saying it right? Okay, good. Check me, please. Okay,
It's
so good.
tricky.
I understand because it's tangy, tangy, and all that for me. So totally
Yes.
understand. But yeah, so we meet every month, and every month we invite a dynamic woman to come and share about her area expertise or thoughts and feelings, all connected to this term, Superwoman Syndrome. And just to be clear, because many people sometimes are like, well, what does that really mean? Well, the reality is, especially for us Black women, is that we think we can do it all, but we also have been conditioned to think and do it all. So we're juggling a career, a family, a home, exercise, social activities. We may develop a condition called Superwoman Syndrome, and that term was actually first coined in 1984. And it was coined because it was saying that research has showed that women pretty much we neglect ourselves because we're seeking to do it all and also reach this level of perfection, but we stretch ourselves and we forget about ourselves. And so we thought that especially this is happening in our Black and brown communities with the matriarchs of our families, and we wanted to just kind of hold space with women. And since Dr. B and I, we provide a service, a mind body practice, we said, let's pull other women who can share because we don't have to do it all, even in this space that we've, created. And so we've
Right.
just been inviting people, one of which is you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what programs and services you offer, and then get into this topic, pout or pivot, what you can do in any given season. Yes.
Yes. Well, I can't thank you enough for holding space for women. Uh, Not enough people are doing that. Women are really burning ourselves at both ends. So kudos to you and Dr. B for acknowledging that women need a safe space to just be able to say, um, life is tough right now.
Right.
So I can't thank y'all enough. As you stated, my name is NaQuetta Mitchell. I am the founder of Women of Endurance, which is a nonprofit organization that helps single mothers turn devastation into determination.
Mm.
What tends to happen a lot is that, women will walk away from certain situations in their life. And by that time that they walk away, they typically have a child or two, which makes the load a little bit more strenuous, but it is manageable. So we help them manage that load and get them certain things that they need, necessities to start life over. I am also a transformation coach. I help women and couples get back on track, get back to the meat and potatoes of what things are. I am excited to be doing that work. For my 9 to 5, I actually work in education, helping to be a facilitator of resources between schools and communities. And I am the mom of two awesome girls. So that is who NaQuetta is. I've been serving the most vulnerable citizens since I was 14, and I am currently 35. So I've been doing this work for a while, helping people get back on track. So, again, I can't thank you for this opportunity to talk to the ladies tonight and help them navigate this new world that we're in uncertain times.
Absolutely. And thank you for all that you've been doing since you age 14, okay? Let's
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about it. Like, yes, that's wonderful, the programs and the services you're offering. And
Yes,
I love how
ma'am.
you coined that, like, from devastation to determination. Like, yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, because I
Yes.
mean, it's some things that will happen in your life that you will just look and say, "Oh my goodness!" Like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to bounce back from this.
Right.
But we do. women do it every day, all day, a
Mhm.
couple times a day. So we have to always remember that sometimes the strength that we don't know that we have is activated in those uncertain times. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So today you're talking to us about power pivot.
yes.
Yes. So let's get into that. Why is it
Yes. So
necessary?
I'm super stoked about that, about this conversation. And for me, I've always been able to use myself as an example. So I always make sure that women know from the jump that Coach Q or
Mhm.
NaQuetta, whatever they may call me, has not had the easiest life.
Mhm.
For me, I was married to the military. I got married when I was 24. And I actually, while going through that marriage, had to deal with domestic violence. My spouse was suffering from PTSD, alcoholism, and a couple other things.
Mhm.
And while dealing with that, we had one child, and then before you knew it, we had another.
Mhm.
I was in a predicament where I had to decide, did I want to pout
Mhm.
about what I was enduring, or did I want to pivot and give my daughters the life that they
Mhm.
so desperately deserved? So I did. I left Texas in my marriage when I was 8.5 months pregnant with my youngest daughter,
Wow.
who's now 7. When I
Okay.
left, I hadn't worked in 5 years. So to try to jump back in the workforce after being a military wife, my resume was looking a little scarce,
Mhm.
to say the least,
Yeah.
to some of the employers that I wanted to work with. So I had to suck it up and kind of drive on. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be, but I knew that I had the abilities to get there
Wow.
and turn that devastation into determination.
Absolutely.
So when I did that, I was able to. My first job after I had my emergency C-section was working at Golden Corral, making $2.17 an hour.
Mm.
So when I say the struggle was real,
Yeah.
it was real trying to pay for 2 children to go to daycare off of $2.17 an hour.
Yes.
I had to live with my mother, while I was trying to get my life back on track and going through a divorce. So when I tell women that you will quite often catch yourself in a predicament
Mhm.
where you have to choose to pout or pivot, I mean that. But I don't want to negate the fact that women do get the opportunity to
Mhm.
feel the
Yeah.
emotions, which sometimes we call pouting. We are allowed to feel those emotions,
Right.
but we just can't unpack and stay there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Mm. Well, thank you for sharing your story. That does, I think it's always helpful, like you said, to help people recognize where did this come from, and that
Absolutely.
you're a real person. You are human first, and so this comes from a space of lived experience.
Absolutely. A lot of times, and you know this, Tangi, we will do these speaking engagements, and women will just look at us like, oh my God, like you have it all together. And you
Mhm.
like, ooh, girl, let me tell you the story of
Yeah,
how I got here and,
absolutely.
how I got through. And I always tell women that's the most important thing is to grow through what you're going through,
Exactly.
because that is really where the lessons and the blessings truly are.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what is some of your primary feedback now to other women at this point and sharing your story? What does that look like? Why does it
Well,
continue to be necessary?
I always tell women to be intentional about the spaces, the places, and the people that you are in and that you are aligning yourself with, especially when you come to that crossroad of pouting and changing
Hmm.
into your pivoting season, because the people around you, your village, they can make or break you.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't understand that. I know for me, if it wouldn't have been for my mother, my father, my family who encouraged me to keep going during the darkest time of my life, I wouldn't be here because I would have naturally given up. I always tell women to take time for self. A lot of times when we hear Superwoman Syndrome, I always tell women, they think it's a cape on my back.
Hmm.
They think it's a cape on women's back. A lot of times it is a towel wiping the sweat off of our brow, wiping our tears as we are fighting through the most toughest season of our life. So I always encourage women to, yes, acknowledge that you are strong, but know that you're so much more than that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you feel that um well, I guess what is the primary population that you said you work with the most vulnerable? How is that received? Are people receptive when you give it to them straight? Because it's really the reality. You can either pout or pivot. What
Right.
has that been
Well,
like for you?
initially, most of the time they're not. They're like, "What you mean I'm pouting?" I'm like, "You are at a place right now where you feel devastated. You feel disappointed in yourself. You feel like you're not going to make it through.
Mhm.
Yes, you're pouting,
Right.
and that's a natural reaction for despair, for devastation, for sadness. When things typically don't go the way that we expected them to go,
Right.
naturally we pout. Our children do it,
Mm-hmm.
and we say to them, hey, stop doing that. It's going to work out. But when we do it,
Right.
we don't necessarily want to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people don't want to hear that, they are in that place where they're kind of pouting while they're going through it because a lot of people are unaware that that's what they're doing.
Right. Welcome,
So I
ladies.
try
See
to
what's
make
going
sure
on.
that those women know that it's natural to be disappointed and sad about certain things that are, going on in their life. So I encourage them to feel that feeling. And now it's time to turn that pain into purpose. Let's sit here. If you don't want to feel that feeling anymore, we need to put systems in place where we don't get to that point again.
Absolutely.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you tell someone who they feel like they've chosen to pivot versus pout, but then still the struggle continues? That they're pivoting and they're feeling like they've pivoted enough. What would you say?
right. Well, I always tell people that pivoting is not a one season motion. If we're completely honest with ourselves, we catch moments every season of our life where we have to pivot.
Mm.
Oh, I'm becoming a mom for the first time. You know, God forbid my mother is no longer with me. How am I going to navigate this? Or,
Right.
oh, I just lost my job. They just downsized because of COVID. What am I going to do in this season?
Mm-hmm.
My teenager is feeling herself and she is talking to me any type of way, honey.
Mm-hmm.
I need to pivot
Yes.
before I'm wearing an orange jumpsuit.
Right.
So, I want women to know that pivoting is a natural thing
Mm-hmm.
and it's constant. Like we always say, there's nothing more constant in life than change.
Right.
When you acknowledge that pivoting is a part of your being, is a
Mm-hmm.
part of your everyday steps, it's easier to do it. You don't look at it as a rejection, you
Right.
start looking at it as a redirection.
Mm-hmm.
So I always look at things like that because, you know, I don't know if this is a faith based organization or how women feel about this, but I know that a lot of things in my life that God has better planned for me.
Right. Right.
So, but I also know that faith without work is dead.
Mm.
So I have to do my part in that, which is me pivoting, me making sure that, oh my goodness, this is going on with my job. Let me update my resume and stay ready so I don't have to get ready.
Yeah.
Oh, my daughter is starting to get a little mouthy. Let me make sure my village is around me because if she can't talk to me, I want her to have other strong women around her that she can talk to that might be able to empathize with her more than I can. If things are going on in my relationship, I need to make sure that I am making my partner aware of these things instead of hoping that he reads my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that you're doing check-ins with your partner, making sure that you are explaining to them and anybody else that you have a ship with, a relationship, a friendship, a partnership with, that they know what you
Mm-hmm.
need and you ask them also what they need. That's another form of pivoting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Just welcome those who just joined us. We're here with Coach Q.
I call you back.
Who's telling us to pivot. Oh, let me mute some folks. So mute when you're coming on in. But we're here with Coach Q, who's telling us to pout or pivot and why it's necessary to do both in any given season. So thank you all for joining us. But she's just dropping some gems for us to think and consider. If you have questions or have a comment as she is speaking, feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute your mic and chime in. Because we're small, intimate settings, definitely can be a conversation more than anything. Yeah. So, Coach Q, powder pivot, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thinking about us as women and thinking about, you mentioned and gave examples about how do we handle these situations, and I think it's helpful too. Could you talk about, like, we are raising black and brown children, and I know right now it's so big for us to not pass on certain generational patterns and things like that. And what would you say as a mother of two children too, to us, in terms of the importance of this, in terms of modeling for our children, for the next generation, whether directly or indirectly, because some of us also may hold positions as teachers or have other roles in the community. What would you say
Right.
for us as far as modeling that or even instilling that in our children too?
I always encourage people, and especially women, to be transparent with your children. I don't know where the notion has come that we're just supposed to keep it all bottled in. I know for me, I do. Um, some people say do too much. Making sure that I'm transparent with my
Mm-hmm.
daughters. I'm 35, and I didn't see my mother take a vacation until I was well into my late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I just always saw my mother work.
Yeah.
Always saw my mother work. And, honestly, she had no choice because she was a single mom. So I make sure that my daughters take vacations with me. I make sure that my daughters have seen mama go on a vacation by herself. I make sure that my daughters are aware that if they are having a bad day, that it is okay. Um, you know, but you So I do want more women to not feel bad about taking off their cape in front of others. It's necessary. It humanizes you. My daughters are some of the most empathetic human beings that I've encountered. And I think that is because they see me care for myself, nurture myself. They see me care for them and nurture them. They know that self care is a priority in my life because self care helps mama keep being happy. Please
Right.
let mama have this
Right.
moment.
Right.
So I encourage everyone to not feel bad when you have to prioritize yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The saying is true, you can't pour from an empty cup. So many people are walking around calling themselves doing that. If you really get honest with yourself, for a lot of women, when you say to them, when's the last time you did something for yourself? They will literally say to you, oh, I went grocery shopping yesterday by myself. Or, my shower was a little longer. I want women to start being intentional about protecting their peace, being intentional about the girlfriends that they, gravitate towards. The ideology of real girls' time, real time for women. I love that we're in a space now where we see so many black and brown women, going to vineyards,
Mm-hmm.
going out to brunch, going to concerts, just living their best lives. I mean, every time I see those pictures on Facebook or Instagram, I'm just hitting the love button, encouraging them that that is what we are supposed to do.
Right.
Yes, we're supposed to, be there for our husbands. We're supposed to be there naturally for our children, but we can't pour from empty cups. So be the example. It's not a cliche.
Right. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about too, like when it comes time to pivot, that sometimes it may be in solitude or on your own. All too
Absolutely.
often, we hear folks waiting on someone or something or somebody. Obviously, we want to promote that external locus of control, a higher power. But I'm often hearing women, like you mentioned, going to a winery or going to brunch. Some folks feeling like, well, I don't have that group to go and do that with.
Right.
What would you say?
Oh, yes, I am a foodie. So I am the queen of going out and trying new restaurants by myself.
By yourself.
9.5 times out of 10, you will not be there alone for long because there's other people like that. I am that person. I love different foods, different ethnicities. I just love people. I love places and things. And I've gotten to a point now where I don't require others to go with me. It's a blessing if you do have a village like that, but it shouldn't be the end all be all. You can live a really good life doing certain things on your own. Going to get your pedicure while the kids are in school and you have a day off. Women do not understand how amazing that feels to take a day off of work while your children are at school. Oh my goodness, that is like one of my top tier things.
Yes.
I love my babies, don't get me wrong.
Yes,
but it's hard to sometimes relax with your children right there with you because they need mama, mom, 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 mom. You're like, yes, baby. Yes, baby. Sure, you can do that. You can do that. And you're just like, Lord, have mercy.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad about doing these things by yourself. I actually went to, I want to say it was about 2 months ago. I went to the Virginia Fine Arts Museum and I went there by myself. My daughters were at school. My family members were at work. I had a day off. I went there. I didn't even know that there was a restaurant in the Fine Arts Museum.
Yes.
And they looked at me like I was crazy. But I was like, oh my God, y'all have a restaurant. So I go up there and they're like, oh yes, we're reservation only. I was like, ooh. I said, yeah. I didn't know that because I didn't know you exist. I said, but it's only me. I said, I will be really quick. And the lady said, okay, well, let me look at the list. She said, you know what? 3 people just actually canceled their reservation. I do have a table of 1, and you could come on in. I went in there, and honey, you could not tell me I was not a rich woman who owned my own vineyard and was married to a football player. Like, honey, I lived my best life in that moment. The food was amazing. It was not expensive. And then I went downstairs and did the Dirty South exhibit by myself.
Yes.
Did all of this by myself and had one of the best days I have had in years. So I always tell people, if there's something you're like, oh, I really want to do that, do it. I go to concerts by myself because I love neo soul. A lot of my friends, we were raised in the Cash Money Records taking over for the 2000s, so they're more hip hop than me. But I love a good neo soul concert, so I go by myself. Every year I find a neo soul concert to go to by myself. So I think that is another thing that women need to start doing. Enjoy your own company first, and then the others will come. Exactly. Because they're sitting around too saying, oh, I ain't got nobody to go with. I ain't going to go. Once you put up a couple times, I went to this by myself, you're going to have people who are going to jump on that post and be like, girl, I've been wanting to go there. Why didn't you tell me? Let me know next time you go. It happens to me every time. Yeah. So date yourself, girls.
Exactly, yes. So is anyone who's joined us, does anyone want to share an example of maybe where you had to pout or pivot or have any questions for Coach Q while we have her? Just kind of opening the floor to any comments or feedback.
Hi, yes. I think this message is right on time because in the last couple of months, a lot of major changes has happened for me, and that really broke me. And of course, I had to have that. I had to sit in it, which of course I had to pout it. But thankfully, I realized that I can't pout for long. Like pouting is not gonna get me what I want or need. So I'm in the process of starting to pivot. So, any advice?
Yes, well, I am proud of you for acknowledging your season. There's so many people who will go through their season and they don't want to acknowledge the changes. I want you to be mindful that a lot of times we take certain things as rejection, which prolongs our pout. The minute that we realize that it's actually a redirection, that's when the pivoting happens. Because now, while we're in this season, we start trying to find our way to our next season. So, as you are in this moment, start really having a real conversation about the changes that have happened. You know, some of them might have not been as bad as you think. I know one time when I lost a job and it was at Amazon, and now I can sit and say, to God be the glory, because that was one of the toughest jobs I ever had in my life. That was a hard job, but I kept going because, you know, I had two small children. But at the end of the day, I realized that that's not where I was supposed to be anyway. I was there, it was seasonal, and it opened the door for something else. After I left that job, I got a job at social services in Petersburg. Literally, I applied for the job, and the job said you had to have a college degree. I did not have a college degree. And they hired me and gave me an opportunity to be able to get in there and advance in that department and be able to advance in the Department of Social Services, which had always been a dream job for me, being in social work. So I want you to know that the pivoting is a process. And I want you to have all the feels that you need to have during this time. So start writing down exactly where you want to see yourself in your next season. If your season that you say there was a lot of changes in it, acknowledge those changes. What were the changes? Were they for the good, or were they something that you felt like could have been done differently? If that's the case, there's a lesson in that. That won't happen to you again because now you will be prepared for those things. So I'm big on journaling, especially in a season where I have to pout. Because I know in that season there is something that did not go the way I thought it would. So I write it down so that in the next season I will know, okay, this didn't go quite the way that I thought it would. What can I do to enhance my season next time? And I always work with the 3 A's. You acknowledge what happened, you accept that it happened, and then you adjust for what's to come.
Run it back, Coach Q. Run that back. Say that again.
So you have to acknowledge what happened.
Acknowledge.
That's you really taking a hard look at that season with the changes in it that really shook you. You have to accept that it happened. That means right now in your life, what can you do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? And then the third and final thing is adjusting. That means getting your posture ready for the season you're about to walk into. Acknowledge, accept, and adjust.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely liking some of the new things that have come about, like finally finding my focus on the things that are important to me. So I'm definitely liking that. And even though I don't have children, a lot of times I get, well, oh, you're lucky you don't have kids. You can just lounge around. I still have family. I still have obligations. I still have other stuff. So
exactly. So, and that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing. is, as you can see, like you just stated, I'm liking some of the things that are coming my way. A lot of times, if we don't have the previous things moved out our way, either voluntarily or involuntarily, we don't even get to see the newness that's coming our way because we're stuck behind those old leaves, those old trees that are blocking our vision. So sometimes it is good to just stop and say, hold on, this happened, but is this really a bad thing? And usually when I sit in my season where I have to pout a little bit, I'm able to think about it and say, okay, God, I see what you were doing there. I see how you just flipped that on me. Because a lot of times we're thinking, and you don't want to say small, but sometimes we're thinking small, and God is standing there like, what? Like you're thinking an apartment. I'm thinking it's time for home ownership. You're thinking, your car that you've had for so many years. I'm getting you ready to purchase the car of your dreams. You're thinking that your high school sweetheart is the end all be all. I needed you to date that person to find out exactly what it is you really want in the love of your life while I'm preparing your soulmate. So I always say, when those things happen, give it time. It typically reveals itself of why you had to go through that season. And once you pivot, you're like, dang, this was what was waiting for me on the other side.
Yeah. Because I discovered that I like tea. And at work, we did Secret Santa. So my Secret Santa got me a blooming teapot. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Listen, that's one of my self-care things. On a Sunday morning, my daughters, I usually let them sleep in a little later. And then we go to the 11 o'clock service at church. And honey, I will get up at my normal 8 o'clock because I know they're going to get their sleep on. And tea is a game changer for me. It just puts me in a place of sheer peace.
Yes, I love it.
Thank you so much for chiming in, giving that feedback, and Coach Q, that definitely helpful advice. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. So at this time, what else do you want to leave with us as we kind of wrap up and leave the room? Really, I want it to be open for questions, comments, or any additional feedback. But what are some things you want us to hold on to as we've held space with you this evening?
Right. I want people to know that a lot of times change is not always bad. A lot of times fear of change is a trauma response. If we're being completely honest. And we don't like to really unpack that. A lot of time, the fear of the unknown is a trauma response. And it's also a control mechanism. We like to be in control of different things. We want to know, that everything is going to work out the way that we want it to. And again, I always tell people, sometimes the way you want it to work out is small time. That's not the way that it's supposed to work out. We watch so many women literally going after their dreams. As Lavinia said, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A lot of times people are under the impression that since she doesn't have children, she doesn't have struggles. She doesn't have baggage. She doesn't have different things that she's taking care of. And that's one of the biggest untruths ever. She still has to make conscious decisions every day to make sure that she can still live the life that she does, with or without children. She is also her parents' child. So, as they're getting older, our parents turn into our children, whether they want to accept it or not. So we have to make sure that we are being mindful that everybody doesn't wear their struggles on their sleeve, that everybody is dealing with change. You know, I heard a radio interview the other day that said we need to be more empathetic in this country. Over 8 million people landed themselves in poverty due to COVID-19. Most of us are one paycheck away from having a completely different life. So I want for us to realize that change is not always bad. There are some good things that can come out of change. And one of the biggest good things that can come out of change is the lesson in it. A lot of times we don't learn anything when everything is smooth sailing and all is well. We learn because of some of the bumps and bruises and the uncomfortableness that we have to endure. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling like you need to pout, you're feeling like things are not going the way that they should go, be mindful that things could change in a heartbeat for the better.
Yes. Good. So, considering the programs and services that you provide, how can folks continue to stay connected to you, to learn more about you, to follow you as you keep being out here helping, like you said, the most vulnerable in need?
Well, I am what some people like to call a social media butterfly. So I absolutely love staying connected with people. So I always let people know that my transformation coaching business is on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, under Higher Than This, because I believe that no matter where we are in life, we can always go higher. So again, that is at Higher Than This on Instagram and Facebook. My nonprofit organization, Women of Endurance, that helps single mothers turn devastation into determination, is Women of Endurance VA. Again, that is Women of Endurance VA. That's on Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, you can find me under NaQuetta Speaks. So that is my Twitter handle, NaQuetta Speaks. So I'm pretty much all over the place when it comes to social media. You can always stay connected to me. And again, my name is NaQuetta Mitchell. So you can find me on LinkedIn and all those other places. All of my social media handles are attached to my name.
Perfect. Okay. And we'll be sure in our caption and in our information, as this will be aired on YouTube, that we're going to put all your contacts, your websites, and the links to your pages as well.
Yes, and my website is www.naquittaspeaks.com, and that is my hub for everything that I'm doing as somebody called me a public figure the other day. That's where you can find all that I'm doing and as one stop. Beautiful. And it also connects you to my social medias.
Okay, perfect. Well, Coach Q, we thank you so much for really volunteering your time, holding space with us to tell us about what you do. Really, also, you added another layer by disclosing your own story, because what we know is telling our stories empowers another woman to do the same. And really helping us gain a greater insight into what you meant by Pout or pivot, and why, like you said, it is necessary in any given season. But you definitely dropped some gems for us today. I'm going to definitely be resharing that, especially those 3 A's: acknowledge, accept, adjust. So we really appreciate the time that you took out today to talk with us, those of us here and those of us that will view this later and replay it. Yes, thank you so much for being a part of us. At the end of the day, this is the end of the year. This is our last community chat for the year, So
we made it,
y'all. Last but not least, okay? And this was definitely a great way to close out the year as we think about our 2022 calendar. And also just a little hint. We are considering, because we weren't able to do it during COVID, and we didn't have the capacity with things still going on to do it again. But we want to bring back and do our second annual goddess retreat. And we are thinking about to bring back all of you ladies and really give you the floor, okay?
Yay!
In person, yes. We had 200 women come out 2019. That was our first goddess retreat. We had to cancel our 2020 retreat, but we are about to bring that back, and we want all of you to come back and be a part of it. So we definitely will be sending you that information, okay?
Please.
But nonetheless, thank you all who joined us this evening and held some space and got some gems dropped, and hopefully you can use everything that she shared as you guys continue to move forward in y'all season and deciding how you gonna deal when you pout and what you're gonna do when you go ready to pivot. Okay. So good. So catch us. Follow our Instagram at Avail Counseling. We will be looking for speakers for 2022. We will be posting that calendar and letting people know, hey, we invite y'all to contact us so they can kind of come and share their gems as well. But thank you again, Coach Q. We're going to send you this replay and we'll go from there.
All righty.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.